All right, so I've been meaning to form and create this video for quite a while now, and I think it's ready. You have to understand that this is something you have to be careful as you apply it. This is something that can work both ways against you if you don't apply it correctly. And as I account for the different portfolio clients we've scaled, the success that I've had in my own personal career at being a closer, in any type time I'm leading people or anything like that, it comes down to this principle. And the people that understand it, they'll usually just have issues overcoming problems. They'll usually have issues having momentum in life, and then just most importantly, like enjoying life and like connecting with it and vibing with it. It always comes down to this. And then the people that are successful with this, they have a better relationship to this, and whether they realize it or not, they're doing this in a subtle way, and it's causing them to have a different reality because of that. And the core thing that I'm talking about, and the whole idea that you need to get across, it's the basis of this whole channel, and it's the basis of my philosophy as a person, is that language creates reality. It can't be any other way. Language creates reality. If we can't fully see reality, right? If I can't fully see this glass of water without my perception of like my visual processing and my brain generating this image of this glass, and then me labeling that it is a glass and me labeling that it is water, I can't, I can only see reality to the limits of my perception, right? And the leading thing that creates it is obviously our five senses create what we interpret, right? Because if you look at other animals, there's other animals that would see this as a completely different color. There's other animals that wouldn't even see it this way. They would be seeing different types of light sources and forms and heat signatures that our senses aren't even capable of grasping. So the human body already limits the perception I can have on this glass of water. But then what we further do to separate ourselves from reality or connect ourselves deeper to it is we then attach labels and words to it. This is a glass of water, right? This is a clear glass. This has a type of textured glass on it, right? And then we add in these different labels to it. Those labels, right? So there's the way reality is and the way reality seems. Where reality seems is like where we have our suffering, is where we have our issues with mindset, is where we'll have disagreements with prospects, or where we're able to actually bend the person's point of view if we're talking to someone so that we can get to the outcome that we want. So we always have to start the basis, and the whole basis of the channel is around that premise that language creates reality. And if language creates reality, then that means that I can generate my reality through language. I can actually form reality through my different words, right? If I start my day and I say, today is going to be the best day ever. Today is going to be the most spectacular day because I decided it's going to be, and here's the list of reasons why it's going to be spectacular. And I go in there and I execute faithfully on that. It doesn't guarantee that I have a good day because that's not the point. And it's not delusional. It's casting my net to a specific outcome, and then it makes it more likely that I gain that outcome. Versus if I generated the reality of like, I don't know if I'm going to make it through today. I don't know if I can do this. It's another day. If I approach it with low energy, I get the reflection of that reality of low energy, right? So language generates reality. But when I was talking to my student, it came across to me as I was explaining it. I was like, wait, there's something more that we do. It's not that we're just labeling reality. It's not that we're just adding this language and then that changes the way that we relate to reality based off our language and what we can see or not see, right? I was like, this goes deeper. And where it went deeper is that I realized that language also creates the energy, right? What we speak also not only forms what we see of reality, right? If I see positive or I see opportunities or I see business problems that I can solve or not solve, right? It not only does that, it changes the very energy at which is created. And as an entrepreneur, there's really three rare resources that you're managing. And we talk about this in more of our advanced courses where we work with like offer owners directly and stuff. But there's three scarce resources that you're managing: time, energy, and money. And a lot of time, energy, and money, if you want the biggest unlocks and all of that, aren't, reading a balance sheet or just looking at the reality of it, right? That's part of all of those things. But what allows you to get the most out of those resources is your ability to be resourceful. And your ability to be resourceful is solely based off your perception of those three things, right? If you have an amazing perception around time, right? You're going to be more punctual. You're going to value time. You're going to value your own time. You're going to value others people's time more. You're going to guard your calendar. You're going to be faithful to the calendar blocks you put on. You're going to do things that prioritize your time over your short-term emotions, right? So when you don't feel like doing something, you still do it anyways because you value your time, right? So there's a different perception of time that people have if they're extremely productive. But that is formed with language and our energy in terms of how we relate to language, which I'll get to, right? And another thing as well is energy, right? Which is the more of the second block, right? So if I speak in something where I'm the best, I'm the greatest of all time, why am I on a winning streak? Why do I keep actually getting everything that I want from life? If that is my default frame of life, that generates energy, it generates abundance, right? And when I lean up into that kind of phase of talking, that phase of speaking, the only byproduct that can get created is more energy, right? You're expanding this capacity, so more energy goes into the system, right? You'd think it'd be the opposite. You think if I conserve my energy and if I'm just like, well, I don't know if it's really that good, and I'm just going to kind of be chill and see what happens, and I'm kind of just acting cool, so I'm just going to not be too excited for it. I don't want to be let down. You think, okay, this person would have more energy reserves, but the opposite is true, right? And you can just see that in day-to-day life. People that have that mindset, they attract a lower energy. There's lower opportunities. There's lower force of reality that they have, right? Versus the person that says, how can I go out and have more energy? How can I do more things, right? The more you're doing things, the more you're working out, the more healthy you are, the more energy you find yourself having. So I love a lot of our ability to tap into the energy that we have in our day, the time that we have in our day, and then also our money, which I didn't get into, but we'll get into that another day, is our ability to tap into those three scarce resources are around perception, right? And we'll do money real quick. One really cool example with money is the restaurant test, I would almost call it. But it's like everyone's been to a restaurant. You go to a restaurant, there's a menu of items, right? One of the ways that you can see how the perception of money affects people is that you can have a menu and you'll have different friends, and you can see the way that they relate to the menu will show you their perception of how they view money, obviously, right? Because a menu is showing prices, right? So I'm able to get a window into this person's perception of something like money, right? Which if you're ever doing like a business partner deal, it's like you want to know, how do they relate to time? How do they relate to energy? And how do they relate to money? So someone's looking at the money thing. That's super expensive? Do they point to the most expensive saying like, look how expensive that is, right? Do they say stuff like that? Do they say, okay, well, I just want this, or let's not share this, right? Like, how are they speaking? Are they speaking in the sense of I'm hoarding things and it's like a scarcity kind of thing of, hey, let's make sure we split things? Is it a generous frame of like, hey, let's order things. It's all on me. Who wants, this is all on me and stuff. Whatever you want to order, I got it for everyone. Let's really enjoy our time. Is it like that? Is it, whoa, that's expensive? And they're like, okay, let me see if I can do this. Did they ask the waiter what the prices are? Right. So you can see how their perception of money is now going to start to change the environment and change how the waitress interacts, how people at the table interact, and solidify their belief of money just through their language. Right. So this is why language is so powerful, is that language is not something most people think language is something that just describes reality, defines reality, that just gives us a label to go like, oh, here's the tangible glass of water. But that is not the case at all. That is the least of what a definition does or what language does. Language creates the reality that we can see. And you can have it because no one on the planet is going to care for you as much as you care for yourself. You got to like care for you because, you might have different people that care for you, but like no one will show that love for yourself. And you have to give yourself that benefit of really showing up and being like, how can I have the best language with myself? Right. And no one talks about that. Everyone talks about maybe health, which is so great, right? Having great health, having great friends, right? Having positive habits. But I think there's not a ruthlessness around like the language itself. There might be around mindset or all these general things, but it's like you can't even talk about mindset. You can't even talk about reality transurfing. You can't even talk about these different mechanisms if you don't have the building blocks down. And the building blocks is language itself. Language itself is the building blocks. There can be no other building block that is more fundamental to the universe, right? So you have to clean it there. Right? Start cleaning your language there. So what are some practical things, right? I want you to remove any type of like pacifiers in your language. So what I mean by that is like, I just don't know. I don't know. Like I was just like, I was really unclear with it. I'm just unsure. What should I do? I mean, I could have done this and I could be wrong, right? And I mean, obviously, like maybe this is crazy, right? Sometimes these are good in sales, but in general, for your own life, I want you to remove things where you pacify your language or downplay your language or downplay, AKA your energy potential, because that lowers your ability to create reality. What you're doing is you're nerfing yourself, right? It's like your language is forming reality. And what you're doing is you're putting this big filter in front of you in reality, and you're blocking your greatness, your energy potential through the way that you're wording things. And if you want to have the most impeccable shot of growing a company, the most impeccable shot of being a very clear thinker, a really great leader, it starts with the language. And you don't want any filter there. You want yourself 100% untapped so that you can break through. That's the level that you want. But that starts with your language. So I'd move the pacifiers away, right? The second is I would leverage silence more. Leverage silence. And you got to do it from a place of authenticness. Don't do it as a tactic, but a place of authenticness, of enjoying the silence and following it. It's not, okay, I've paused for 3 seconds and then I speak. That's just be like, you're comfortable with the moment. And you're just like, all right, it feels right to speak right now, right? It's like that type of energy, right? A lot of the times when we have these passengers, like these pacifiers in our language, it's because we're not allowing ourselves to process the information fast enough, right? And then it causes these buffers, right? So when you have silence and we take away these things, but then you have silence and it's this conscious application of what you're saying, you can then create the reality that you want. So just focus in on those two things. I could go on and on with different things that you can do and stuff with this. But at the end of the day, you just have to remember that if you've had any problem, if you're in your life, you keep having things that are causing you friction, causing you not to be the person that you want to be in health, wealth, love, or happiness, assess it not from a mindset level, not from a relationship level, not from a health level, not from a wealth level. I want you to take away all those things. I want you to go back to English class, that level. And I want you to look at it at the word level. That is the whole point of this, right? No one thinks of it that way. Looking at it at the word level and be like, where am I using things that downplay my energy? Where am I using language that makes me seem like a victim? Where am I using language that's not intentional and that is sloppy? Where am I lacking vision in my language? Where am I not directing my language? Where am I not maybe having confident, grounded tone when I speak, right? So a lot of this can be a vibrational thing that you're bringing out as you speak. Right. So you can keep going down this and just fine tune every single word. And then once those building blocks are so high energy, they're potent, they're authentic to you. You don't sound like a put together speaker. You just sound authentic to yourself, but there's this level of congruence because you've worked on it and reflected on it. You then take that and then apply it to mindset, and then apply it to working out, and then applying it to business, and then applying it to relationships. When you have that level of intention, everything becomes easier because now you're actually bending reality at the very fabric of it. So apply this with care. This is a double-edged sword. You do this the wrong way, your life will be harder and more painful and not on the track that you want it to be on. But if you do this in a conscious and diligent way, you can have a life that is extremely beautiful that you can even dream of, right? If you take this to heart. So enjoy this, apply it in your life. I'll see you in the next video.